I'm Jonathan Asbell, and I run SaveOurHomesNow.com, and it's specifically designed for people who might have found themselves in a difficult situation temporarily, and that bloomed into something more serious, and they're in threat of losing their house. First of all, let me just say that I have the utmost respect for you and your family and what you might be going through. The goal of what I'm going to do with you from the very onset is going to be to give you clarity, to make sure that you are completely aware with what all of your options might be, so that you can decide based on complete information what is best for you. I also may not be part of the solution. It really depends on what it is that you choose to do. If your house is in foreclosure or on the path to foreclosure, then there's one important thing you have to do to get control of your house, and that is find some way to pay the fines, the fees, the arrears, and get yourself reinstated. What's important to understand also is what you're up against and what you are facing. And I don't want you to take it lightly, and I don't take it lightly. A foreclosure or a bankruptcy, you're going to have a very significant and detrimental mark on your credit score for the next 7 to 12 years. What I found after having done this since 2008 is that people don't know that they have options. People that we tried to help that went into foreclosure, they wrote us saying, wow, if I only knew that that was possible, I never would have let this happen. And I think this is the biggest problem with what's going on, is that you consumers, you homeowners, you're not aware of all the options you have, how to solve this, what you're up against. You're just not sufficiently informed. And our job here at Save Our Homes Now is to make sure that you are, so that you can make a decision that's right for your family and that you are most comfortable with. Here are some other things that you need to know about when foreclosure or bankruptcy is on your credit record. You'll lose your credit cards, at least a majority of them. They'll have to become debit cards. You won't be able to buy anything on credit. To lease a car, if your car breaks or needs repairs, you won't be able to use credit to do that, so you'll have to have cash. If your refrigerator breaks, I'm not really sure what you're going to do. It's already a long time to get a refrigerator. And then on top of that, you have to have paid for it by credit or make some kind of credit arrangement. And any company is not going to want to do that, seeing that you have a foreclosure and or a bankruptcy on your record. If you want to apply for a job, many jobs will not take someone who has severely blemished credit. What's fairly new is that jobs interviews will determine that they won't hire you based on the credit because you're essentially unreliable or potentially untrustworthy, or don't know how to handle money, or don't know how to manage yourself. If you want to start up utilities at another residence, you're going to have to pay a lot of cash up front for them to give you that service. One of the most challenging aspects of this is that landlords won't rent to you. Once they see these types of blemishes, they're thinking to themselves, well, this person's not going to pay. I'm not going to chase them. You're not going to be able to get another place to live. There are so many problems that occur because of a foreclosure and or bankruptcy. And when you do both, it's like a real double whammy, and it lasts for a long time, and people just don't want to help you. What I can share with you is that a foreclosure or a bankruptcy is going to remain on your record for between 7 and 12 years. And here's why. First of all, the credit companies determine how long these blemishes remain on your record. And then what happens behind the scenes is that if there's a debt that needs to be collected, the creditors continue to resell the debt, meaning if they can't get you for the full amount, they're going to sell the debt to somebody else for a slightly less amount so they don't lose as much. And that can continue. Another serious aspect to what's happening here with facing foreclosure is that if you do let this go to auction and you don't solve this problem, what's going to happen is when it's sold, within days, the sheriff is going to come to the house and remove everyone and everything from the house. And it's going to happen publicly, and you're not going to have anywhere to go with your stuff. You won't be prepared. And it's going to be a very difficult and humiliating situation. Because as I've said before, there are plenty of solutions for a foreclosure. How to resolve it, how to prevent it, how to reverse it. And there is absolutely no reason for you to let this house go through that process, lose it, lose your credit, and go through those difficulties. There's no reason. The particular selection of alternatives that you're going to have will depend on where you are in the process, what's happened, what it is that you can do, what it is that you're willing to do, and if it involves other parties to help you out, what it is that they can do and that they are willing to do. With all the alternatives that you have, at some point you'll choose one, and what you want to do is you want to choose sooner rather than later. Here's something that's very important to understand as well with regards to the dynamic of the situation that you're facing. And that is that time is your enemy. Time is not helping you. Every day that goes by, you're going to owe more. It's going to take more away from your equity, and you're going to permit more things to occur. There are more challenging situations that can present themselves. There are things that can interrupt something or derail a process that's working for you. The more time that you let this situation go unsolved, the more it permits difficulties to enter into the process, complicate your life, make it more expensive. You're losing different opportunities that you could have otherwise have, perhaps better opportunities. As time goes along, options and opportunities that you have disappear because they're no longer viable, they're too expensive, they're too difficult and complex, or they're unattractive and people won't want to do them, whether those be companies that don't want to do them or private individuals who can help. This is something you want to solve very quickly. Time is your enemy. The second aspect that's most important is to understand what your alternatives are. There are some basic alternatives that you can evaluate for yourself. One is a loan modification. Unfortunately, with loan modifications, a lot of banks are going to take your low loan at 3-4% or whatever it might be, and they're going to bring you up to today's rates. I'm not sure how that helps you. And I don't know why a lender would do that if for no other reason than to make it difficult for you and get you off of their books and replace your low percent mortgage with a much more aggressive rate from somebody else after you've been forced to sell. Another option you have is to sell the house. If you've got equity in the house, you can sell the house. Yes, you have to find a place to live, but selling the house is a way to get out of this without needing anyone else if you have the equity. Another option that you can take is, and it's not something that I would recommend or not recommend, it's on a case-by-case basis, and you'll have to talk with an attorney. You can look into the option of filing for bankruptcy. Yes, historically that has shown to stop the foreclosures. In some situations, it might not. It really depends on the judge. It depends on many other things. And a bankruptcy is something that you kind of have to qualify for. It's just as bad as the foreclosure. And if you end up filing for bankruptcy and then you get on the other side and you still can't pay your mortgage and you go to foreclosure, and you get that double whammy of a bankruptcy and a foreclosure, it's going to make your life really, really, really difficult. I would take that decision very, very seriously if you're going to go into it. And I would get a good recommendation of an attorney who's not just going to tell you that, yes, they can stop a bankruptcy. It's not so much about just stopping it, but what the consequences are on the other side after it's been stopped and what the risks are. And I think a lot of people who go through this, they are not given the opportunity to understand the consequences and the risks. Another thing you can do is if there's not enough equity in the house, you can short sale. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to hit your credit a bit, but it's going to be a shorter hit. It's not going to be 7 years. What you're doing in a short sale is asking the bank to let you out of a situation that you apparently cannot handle, and they're going to evaluate that in exchange for allowing another person to come in and buy the house so that the bank doesn't have to own the house. They're going to have to approve of that offer as well. And you're going to have a hardship. It's not good enough to just request out of the bank. You have to demonstrate that you've gone through some difficult situations, some difficult times that caused all this. So when you're going through a short sale, first and foremost, you need a reason why you are asking a bank to take a hit on the amount you owe them. And it has to consist of something that looks a lot like sickness or divorce or death or financial difficulty or some difficulty. What's also difficult about short sales is that the bank doesn't typically accept the first offers that come in because they're very low, because the buyer knows that the seller's in trouble and that the property's in trouble, and they're not willing to really pay a very high price. What happens is the person that wants to buy the house from the seller, They come in with this offer and the bank does not accept it and sends back a counteroffer. And this can go on. And while this goes on, the situations with the creditor selling the debt to another creditor can occur and start everything over again. For now, I want to achieve a couple things with you. Number one, I want you to know where you are in the process. So if you click the button below, you can see where you might be in the process. You might have to look at some paperwork and you might have to call your lender. But we need to understand where you are in the process. Are you in default? Are you in list pendants? Are you already at a point where the summary judgment hearing has taken place and has determined how much you would have to come up with at auction to be reinstated? Are you already at a point where they've set the auction date and it's just a matter of days or weeks or months until the auction? It's important to know where you are in this process. If you can get someone who's a family member or a friend to pay off the fines, fees, and arrears so that you can regain control of your house, you'll be out of foreclosure. If you can't, then we really have to explore other options, and you're going to have to be flexible and open, and you're going to want to avoid at all possible costs this house delaying a solution and ending up at an auction.